viewers, the latest news about Ethiopia, Amhara, and Tigray region is that, according to the latest reports, the suspension of food aid to Tigray expected to kill innocent civilians. Last week, the UN World Food Programme and USAID both announced a suspension in food aid to Tigray, where an estimated 5.3 million people are known to be starving. While neither statements gave a timetable for when food distribution could resume, UN Residence Coordinator Susan Kozi told Tigray TV that the investigation was expected to continue until June at least. If food assistance remains suspended for the duration of the investigation, the consequences will be devastating for the people of Tigray. The full impact of the suspension of aid is impossible to predict due to the unusual efforts taken by the United Nations and the Ethiopian government to suppress information about the current condition in Tigray. The WFP has still not realized the emergency food insecurity assessment that was conducted in February, and the UN IOM has released no official data about the conditions being faced by an estimated 2.5 million displaced Tigrayans. This data was being collected and reported during the conflict, but for reasons unknown, the unfettered humanitarian access promised in the cessation of hostilities agreement appears to have had an adverse impact on transparency. There is even some confusion about when food distribution was halted. The initial report about the suspension of food aid did not come from the WFP or USAID, but rather from the Associated Press, which reported that the suspension was announced to partners on April 20. The official announcements from WSP and USAID came on May 3. On the same day as these announcements, the director for the Tigray Early Warning and Food Security Directorate challenged the previously reported suspension date. In an interview with Tigraye TV, the head of Tigray's Early Warning and Food Security Directorate, Gebrik Zaber Arigwavi, stated that the suspension actually began a week earlier on April 13. However, an unpublished food distribution dashboard update shared with Tagat media from the week ending April 19 notes as temporary suspension from 30 March to 14 April. The update is also reported that food was distributed to some remaining IDPs in Mekelle on April 15. The food distribution data supports the initial report from the food cluster. As shown in the chart, distribution fell sharply by 90% in the first week of April. The food cluster data for the week ending April 19 also shows that a total of 12,601 people received a food ration in Mekelle, which appears to quantify the reference to some remaining IDPs. Outside of capital, only 52 food rations were distributed. Unless otherwise noted, all food distribution data is derived from analysis of the food security cluster. Furthermore, this data suggests that USAID and WFP quietly shut down food assistance to 5.3 million starving Tigrayans more than a month before an official announcements were made. As a result, when USAID and WFP finally announced the suspension, 94% of their collective cash load has already gone more than 6 weeks without any outside food assistance. As shown in the chart, by May 3, only 3,15,528 food rations had been distributed in the past 6 weeks. If food assistance is restarted in the first week of June, which currently appears to be the best case scenario, no one in Tigray will have received a food ration in the past 6 weeks, and only 1% of the collectively case load will have received any outside food aid in the past 10 weeks. As noted, it is impossible to even begin to predict how this new distribution of food aid will affect the people of Tigray because humanitarian agencies are not reporting on the living condition of peoples on the ground. Since the resumption of fighting last year, only one report has used an empirical approach to collect information directly from Tigrayans. The study included focus group in discussion with returnees in the eastern zone of Tigray as well as site visits to several towns and villages. The finding confirmed some of the worst fears about the conditions on the ground in Tigray. The report was published in March and was removed by the UNHRC just later with no official. The UN and other organizations have no always suppressed this kind of information from Tigray. From March 21 to February 2022, the IOM performed emergency IDP hosting sites assessments, which were made publicly available. Additionally, the WFP published emergency food security assessments in January and August of 2022. As illustrated in the table, the finding of the August food assessments showed that Tigrayan's family were barely surviving without much assistance reaching them. So, thanks for watching.